and welcome to another video. So today I am going to set up my teacher planner for the 2020-2021 school year. Now, this is a super initial setup because I didn't know when I was setting it up exactly what my schedule was going to look like, exactly what the year was going to look like. And at this point, a week into my new job, I still don't know exactly how anything's going to happen. I feel like nobody can say they know exactly how everything's going to play out. So what I have here is a super initial setup. It's me putting in all the information I have right now and playing around a little bit with my weekly layout, just getting an idea of what I might do. And I fully expect to change a lot of things moving forward. So that's kind of what I'm working with. And with that out of the way, I am going to put this into a time lapse because it does take me quite a while. Alright, so the first page I'm setting up is this year at a glance, and I decided to use this as a space to outline my yearly calendar, which could completely change. So, this is subject to change, but I honestly don't mind whiting out in my teacher planner and making it really messy because plans change all the time. And if I write something down, I'll probably change it. And if I am really unsure about whether things will lay out as I want them to be, I'll put them in sticky notes. A lot of my lesson planning gets mapped out first for weeks at a time in sticky notes, just really broad. I think we're going to be on this section of the textbook here, and here, and we'll probably have a test here, that kind of thing. And then week by week, I go in and I pen in things that I think are actually going to happen, and then I'll scratch out and white out and move things as necessary as that week plays out. So here I am color coding things like a late start, when there's no school, when there's a school event, when there's a faculty work day, which means there's not class, but I still have to be at work, and then anything else. So something that's really particular, there might only be one or two of that type of day in the calendar, and I have a note to myself on that day, check the school calendar because it's weird and I should make sure to figure out exactly what's happening on that day. So I'm pulling this in from my school calendar as it's currently posted. Things like the fact that there's new faculty orientation the 10th, the first day of school is on the 20th, and that's moved around a lot. It was initially announced that we were going to be doing hybrid learning on campus, but then they decided to go remote, and we went from going remote 2 weeks to going remote 3 weeks and doing a staggered start situation. And so that has changed a lot, but the actual start date, regardless of format, has consistently been the 20th. So I don't foresee that changing since it's coming up right around the corner. So we're working towards that. I've got a few late starts in there. Late start is an interesting concept. They did not have them at my other school, so I don't even understand what happens on those days. And given our current system, I don't know if they're going to happen. Right? If we're remote, what does late start mean? And if we're on campus hybrid schedule, then what happens to students who are they're going to have far less class time in a time when they're already having less class time, So that's up in the air, but as the schedule was posted, that's what I'm going in with. And then also days when we don't have school because there's a break or whatever. And here I'm just using my mild liners to make a little rectangle / square shape. I didn't want to do dots because I knew it was going to be hard to make it consistent, and I didn't want to wait to order transparent dots. For me, that wasn't worth the expense because the transparent dots for a sticker sheet is something like $5, and then I'm only going to use them for this spread that I probably won't reference quite that much. I have it set up, but I know myself, I don't look at these pages, so I just went with my mild liners and I picked a color palette that I liked, and I'm laying it all out right here. I've also started to leave this planner at work. Usually my teacher planner travels with me, but I am keeping it at work in part to kind of work out a work-home kind of balance, right? Not bringing all my work stuff home because then I feel like I have to be working at home, and when I'm at home, I am off. And so unless it's 100% crucial that it gets done that day, I'm not going to work on it at home. The other thing is that I have to sanitize everything when I get home, and I don't want to have to continuously sanitize the cover of my planner when I don't really need it all that often. My teacher planner, I can set up one morning at school, so I do a lot of my planning at school too. So I'm just going to keep it at school. This brief flash you've just seen is me forgetting to turn on the camera, where I started to pencil in, or really pen in, the dates that I know. So basically on the other page, I highlighted them at a glance, and here I'm going in and date by date going to specify what event is happening on that date. And I'm trying to color code the mild liner color that has the day of the month in it with the plum paper color at the top. And I think it comes out quite nicely. There's like a lot happening, and that's just what happens when school starts. Oh my gosh, my year at a glance it gets really full during the school year. So lots of highlighting coming into play, but these dates aren't different than things that I have previously outlined. So late starts, no work days, no class days, particular events like back to school night. I don't even know if we're still doing that or what it looks like, but if we do it, it's planned for a certain day. And meet the teacher, conferences, all that kind of stuff. I don't know what it's going to look like this year, but those are the dates that I have. They're all right there. But as I was saying, I don't bring this planner home anymore. And it's interesting because on the one hand, I don't really need it, but every now and again when I do need it, it is very jarring to want to reach for it and for it not to be there because I left it at school. Like this voiceover, I usually voice over while looking at my planner next to me because the preview screen on the video editor is a little too small to see all of my writing clearly, and I don't have my planner to reference it because I'm doing this on a Sunday. So that's really weird. And if there's something that I'm not saying exactly what it says, that's because I can't currently see it super well and I don't have my planner with me. But it is the way that things are right now, and I have my daily planner which does go back and forth, and I'm always sanitizing that cover, which does mean that I don't use it a lot at home. This past week I got home and didn't touch it, so I could probably leave that at school too. It's very strange not to always be in my planners, but it's just even if it would make me a little more grounded to glance at my to-do list one more time, I know what my biggest things of the day are from setting up my planner previously, and so it's not 100% necessary for me to look at it. And if I don't have to look at it, then I don't have to sanitize it. I don't have to worry about what kind of germs might be on it if I just keep it in my bag. So that's the thing. And then if I take it out, I have to sanitize my desk at home and wipe everything down. I have a completely different set of pens that I'm not touching, and I'm probably going to make that even more dramatic. There are some pens that I want to buy that I think are going to be stay at school pens, and then pens that I'm going to keep at home. So all of that is going on, and I'm just explaining that because this is taking me quite a while to write everything out. I did add the years where there's a switch because the plum paper setup starts from January regardless of what year you're in and when your planner starts. So that January is not January 2020, it's January 2021, and I just add the year at the top and mark the arrow to note that 2021 starts here and the rest of the months are 2021. Over on the other page, I think I marked that September was 2020. I didn't include August dates as being 2020 in this future glance page because I'm planning this month out in August, so all my August dates get put straight into the monthly calendar, and so the August in this future log page is actually August 2021. And I think the pen I'm using here is a black Parku pen. I started to use my Villa Beautiful pen again. I got it during a planner kit sale thing that she did. I got this pen in that kit and I ran out of ink, but then I found the extra ink cartridge all her pens come with, and I put that in there today because I didn't have my pens. My pens are at school because they're where I touch them and they're all germy and I didn't want to sanitize them, so I'm not using most of the dark pens that I have been using. The dark Parku pens, I've been using the black one, the dark blue, the dark pink, and sometimes the brown. I didn't have those when I started working today, and so I've started using a Villa Beautiful pen, and I might be using those more often. You might see them in upcoming videos because I found that I really like the tip size. I go through phases, whether I like the bolder tip or the finer tip. Here in this video, I'm using a bolder tip, and it's the tip size I have been using for a few months now. Like, I don't know, almost 6 months. And so I haven't used a 0.5mm tip in a really long time. So that's the pen I'm using. And I skipped past the page where plum paper gives you space for like outlining goals and ideas and stuff, because right now my idea is to use that to map out units. So by month or by unit, like unit 1, unit 2, and unit 3, and then some categories, and or like January, we want to do these sections to this section or something like that. I haven't really decided, so I'm jumping straight through my August monthly. And because I was really uncertain about this overall layout, I only set up August and September in my monthly view for now, because I figured that things could change, or as I learn more about the specific schedule and the specific things that I want to do, I might want to plan differently. So I left myself space for that by only setting up August and September in the monthly view, and then giving, like, so that I would have those months set up because they're the most immediate months and I can be ready for things coming up, but I don't need the rest of the months to be all mapped out yet, especially since I have my future log and my year at a glance to take a look at things that are coming up way ahead if I really need to. So the first thing I did for August was map out the hybrid schedule. So there's a 5-day rotation of classes, and there are 2 cohorts of students. So there's like the day 1 schedule, group A, the day 1 schedule, group B, the day 2 schedule, group A, the day 2 schedule, group B. And I started to map that out. It doesn't apply right now. We have moved to remote for the first 3 weeks, and so that means that there isn't an alternating cohort schedule. And there also isn't a 5-block schedule. So my school does a thing where they have certain periods of time where like the semesters are really different and students only take one almost elective type course for those 3 weeks, and they get like really in-depth in whatever that course is about. And that's the first 3 weeks of the semester. So we don't have a hybrid schedule because we're going remote, and we don't have a 5-course alternation because they're only taking 1 course. So the schedule is different, and because it's remote, it's actually up to the instructors to kind of map out time. How much time are we spending on Zoom synchronously, and how much time are they working on work individually or in small groups? So we've set that up, which is why this layout I'm kind of mapping out here isn't going to work. So what I'm doing here is a mock layout on a week that I don't even have class, just to give you an idea of how I might set up things in the future, but this is not how I'm going to set it up the first 3 weeks. The first 3 weeks, I know I'm going to have my subjects be the time blocks of the day for our single class schedule thing. I'm helping to co-teach a course, and so we have things like 9 to 10 synchronous Zoom meeting, 10 to noon small group activity that was introduced during that synchronous Zoom meeting. Then they break for lunch. Then they come back, we meet for like another hour synchronously to introduce something else and recap. Then in the afternoon, there's like teacher questions and things like that. So those hour blocks are going to be my subjects. Here, I was working with the idea of hybrid learning. So we have at the top, geometry group A, geometry group B, then any additional notes I have for geometry, and the same thing for physics. And so then each day, I'm making note of whether that group is in class or online. So geometry group A starts online for this mock week, and then the next day they're in class, and then the next day they're online, and the next day they're in class. And alternatively, the group B, if group A is online, group B is in class, and if group A is in class, group B is online. Putting together this spread like hurt my head. It was so hard to keep track of, and this isn't even including students who are only remote. So I just completely got rid of Sunday and Saturday and made those boxes for remote students. So what's the work I need to get from them, what are the check-ins I need to have with them, and things like that. What do I need to upload for them? Because if I'm giving it like a printout to students in class, they aren't in class ever, so I have to make sure it's uploaded and accessible to them. So I set that up over on the far right of the page, and now I'm going in with like mock lessons. So for example, online group A for geometry, they're doing like practice questions from the previous week, and they're starting to read ahead in the book. And then in class, we're going to do something. I don't know what I'm writing here. We're doing the next lesson. Something like that. It's like so general, but my idea right now is for them to do practice and or some reading ahead, like note-taking, on the days when they aren't in class, and then the days that they are in class are going to be clarifying any questions that came up the previous day and maybe additional practice. I don't know. It's going to take some adjusting. And then I marked at the very end of the week, like maybe they have a quiz, and it might be like a take-home quiz that they do asynchronously when they're at home, because I want to maximize in-class time for instruction and feedback. So that's what I'm working with right now. I have time to think about this because my geometry and physics courses don't start for 3 weeks while we're working in this alternate schedule. So there's time. But then, for example, over in the remote section, I have to just map out that the remote students need to make sure they get through these couple of lessons, and they need to make sure that they have done a quiz and some homework or something like that. So that's all set up. And then I don't know. It's like there. It's so hard to explain because I didn't know what I was doing. And I marked labs for physics. I don't know how we're going to do labs this year. I think that one of the other teachers who's older than me has found an online resource that can let students take data measurements online that we're going to be using, but I have not looked into it yet. I haven't been given that information quite yet, so I don't know what it's going to look like. It's really wild. So this is a super tentative layout. I think that's about all that can be said. Except for the very last note, which is at the very bottom, since this had 6 like boxes. Well, I used 6 boxes, and the 7th box I'm using to mark like student meetings or emails, because I want to keep track of when students reach out and what students I haven't heard from. And so I will just write there like so-and-so emailed me or so-and-so didn't email me. And here I'm starting an alternate layout because I thought maybe I had more than one idea. And as I started to try to put it together, I was like, no, this isn't going to work. It doesn't make any sense. Where I was trying to organize by class section instead of whether they were online or not. And that was too hard. So I'm going to assume that my sections will be mostly on the same thing, and then I only need to keep track of what the students in class that day are doing versus what the students outside of class that day are doing. That might not make any sense, but like I said, it was hard to put down and it was harder to explain. So the schedule is just really weird, and these are just some very loose mock spreads. I'm probably going to use the green bar at the very bottom for meetings, just to mark that I have a meeting that day, like a faculty or department meeting. And that's like the main weekly setup. I moved prep work over to the far right. I'm using the to-do section as honestly more of a prep work. I think that this week's section, to-do space on the sidebar, is going to be my collection of prep work, and it might carry over to the right hand page if there's more stuff I need to do. And then I decided to use the notes section not as a notes section but as a to grade section. So these are assignments I have given the students that I need to make sure I record a grade for. And my idea here is that I'll cross out the bullet points when I have graded the assignment, and I'll scratch it out completely when I have returned the assignment to my students. I really like that box. I like how even though I'm not the biggest fan of how small the boxes are in the weekly section, and I have some mild regrets about the planner size I chose, I love the sides, how many boxes there are on the far left and the far right, because it's letting me really organize things. My grading, my prep work, the remote students, all of that. I have more space to categorize on the sides. So I do really like that, and I think that this spread is going to work out this year, but I expect to change things next year. I think I might really have to go back to the 8.5 by 11, even if I hate it. Like, I hate carrying it around. But if this year I get used to keeping my teacher planner at work, then it might not be that big a deal. So we'll see how that goes. Now I'm using the dashboard page to make a few goals. These have changed. They're not accurate. One of them is finish setting up teacher planner. Well, I did that, so I guess that's all right. The next one is make unit posters. That was for an idea I had that I don't think I'm going to implement this year because of the uncertainty in the schedule. Basically, I wanted to make some kind of overarching narrative for the year that the students would be like going on a quest, and they would collect at different points like something that would give them a math concept and also another piece to whatever narrative of the year was going on. I don't know. It wasn't fully formed. I had an idea, and I thought that there would be like a map that would outline the different units or sections we were working on that I would put together. But again, that's the kind of thing that if I was going to do it with them, they'd need a lot of guidance, and it would work best in a physical setting. And ideally, they'd be moving around through different stations, and that's just not going to work this year. So I'm adapting that a lot. And so it's not really a goal in August. And then I think my last goal was something like plan labs 2 weeks ahead, because last year I was struggling to make sure I had all the lab stuff on time, because if I needed to order something and I hadn't planned to do that lab, it was so hard. So I really want to get better about doing lab prep earlier, but I don't even know what labs are like this year, so that's not a thing either. It's also not important for August because I'm not starting on my lab course in the month of August, so there's that as well. And then I've highlighted in yellow the dates where we do have that alternate schedule, smaller 3-week term. That's like the fall intensive term, and then later we start our regular fall schedule. And I outlined those dates in another color. I don't know how I feel about that system. Technically, it's not, there's nothing I'm doing right now that makes me feel like it won't work, but I don't know if I want to highlight every single day. I don't think it's really necessary. So I probably won't continue that, but I also do it for September. Also in September, I'm putting the hybrid schedule in, which again, we're not going to need right now. It won't come into play until I think like the 3rd week of September. But this is how I would put it in if we were going to use it. I'm also referencing my future log to make sure I have in important dates. So I think in September there are things like back to school night or conferences or something like that. Again, I don't know what shape they're going to take, but these are technically the dates that they are scheduled for. So I'm putting those in. And here I'm using a different color pen. So for August I used green. For September I'm using this dark blue. I don't think I'm going to keep color coding the months. I tried it for this setup, but I didn't get anything out of it, and I really hate having to change pen color a lot. Like if I do it too much, it's tedious. So I think I'm going to stay to my classic black and just keep working with that. So I put in the hybrid schedule the whole month of September when it's going to be completely different now. So, but that was all I knew at the time. I'm also marking that green is the color I'm going to use for outlining the days that the fall semester is in. And those are my monthly setups. They're like very simple. I think the only thing I would add is that I'll probably try to keep up with going back to write in for a monthly view the unit sections that we get to. I might try that. I did it for a little bit last year and then fell off, and I think I'm going to try to keep up with it this year. Something that I like about Plum Paper is that at the very back, they have these like year mapping, goal setting kinds of pages. And so I'm going to go in and fill them in. This is a section where it might be hard for me to see exactly what I write. But for example, it's like describe this year in 3 words. I put presence, connections, and creative because I want to really work on not getting so stressed that I don't feel present in particular situations like at school events and things like that. Connections because I want to work on building actual connections with students. Socializing in any context is really hard for me, and I'm a very to the point, like straightforward person. So like if I don't have anything specific to talk to a student about, it's very hard for me to consciously remember to also just check in with them generally, you know, like ask them how they're doing and things like that. And I don't know, for some people that may seem like a super easy, obvious thing to do, but it is something that I have to consciously practice. And then I also added creative because I wanted to make sure that this year I spent some time really trying to think outside the box and get away from like following a textbook too closely or too much lecture. I always try to avoid too much lecture, but I have been relying on the textbook a lot, and I don't want to always send my students there. Like I want to find alternate resources for them and things like that this year. Then all my goals are there in more detail, so you can like just pause and read them. I can't see them right now, but they're broken down into personal goals, organization goals, planning goals, and professional goals, I believe. And so I put a lot of different things down, mostly about like what can I do this year to make me feel more prepared, because last year I felt like I was just planning day by day with too much. I want to have more prepared ahead of time so that I'm not so stressed when I finally get into a classroom that I can't practice those other things that I have said are important to me, like checking in with students mindfully and things like that. So that's what my goals pages were about. And then I'm setting up these grading pages really quickly just with the section and the course. So geometry, all 3 sections of that, and then physics. And then here I was counting because I feel like it might be easier for me to put student names across the top and assignments across the side because I don't have many students. There are like 30 lines there and I don't have 30 students at a time. So I can fit more assignments in if I put the assignments down the left and put the student names up at the top. So that's another thing that I'm playing with, but we'll see. And then the very last thing I'm doing is remembering that I have stickers at the back that I didn't use. So I'm picking them up to go in and add them to the months that I have already set up. And this is my initial teacher planner setup. It's okay. I'm going to change it, and I will do another update video sometime in the next few months once I get a little more settled into how things are going to look. But for now, this is my setup. So if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. If you're a teacher, let me know what planner you're using because I don't know, I'm always so curious. I have found some at Michael's that are very promising for next year. So I'm just kind of always thinking about how to better this whole system. So anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.